It's Super Videos back at you for another video. In this video I'm going to be talking a bit more about Season 7 Episode 1 of The Walking Dead, which is called The Day Will Come When You Won't Be. I'm going to be talking about some of the things that you may have missed while watching the episode, as well as some Easter eggs. Now, I did talk a little bit about this in one of my other videos, but in this one I'm going into more detail and I'm going to be talking about some of the things that I noticed while watching the episode again. So to start it off, we of course start with the right-hand man sneak peek, and we have Negan talking to Rick, and there's a point where Rick says, "I'm going to kill you." And of course that was straight from the comics and it happened the same way. But what was interesting about it is that it's also a callback to something that happened in the premiere of Season 5 at Terminus, when Rick obviously said the same thing to Gareth, who was the leader of the termites. What Rick said was that, "I have a red machete and I'm going to use that to kill you." And when he finally gets a chance to do that, to kill Gareth with that machete, he says, "I already made you a promise," and he uses that to kill him, so fulfilling his promise to Gareth. Now, of course, I don't think Rick can fulfill his promise to Negan and kill him, but a bit of that is just because I know about the story in the comic book and I know where the story is going. But if I didn't know about that, of course, that's the first thing that would come to my mind, that Rick would get his revenge on Negan and fulfill his promise. But that was something interesting that I noticed. Then the other interesting thing was that when Rick is taken to this location with the logs burning and Negan tells him to go get my axe, a lot of people have said, how the axe ended up on top of the roof when Negan throws the axe outside. How come it's on top of the RV? I went back and I actually looked and I noticed that when Negan throws the axe, he doesn't throw it outside. He actually throws it on top of the RV. So that goes to Negan knowing that Rick can probably get the axe if he throws it outside in a near distance. But if he throws it at the top, it's going to be difficult for Rick to find it, even impossible. And if Rick can actually retrieve that axe, that just shows how strong Rick is. And I think that's what Negan is trying to get out of Rick, to see how strong he really is. If he's really strong, he's going to find a way to get that axe for him, to save his people. So that was something very interesting and powerful. And then there's a part when Rick is looking into the eyes of the person who was hanged and turned into a walker. And there's a moment where Rick falls to his knees at that point on top of the RV. And I was thinking, why did that man give him that reaction? And then I went back to see the interaction Rick had with the others at that moment when they first met the guy who was hanged. And if you go back and look, Aaron wants to shoot the chain and release the man that's being hanged. But Rick says, "Don't do it. We're going to need the bullets." And I think Rick is realizing how wrong he was and how wrong his calculations were, because they didn't try to save the guy. They did save one bullet, but how useful was that for them, really? Because when they were surrounded by the saviors, one bullet wasn't going to do shit. So that was very interesting how Rick is realizing his miscalculations and how wrong he was about the situation, and thinking that he can actually survive and do something about the situation at hand. And then there's this point where Negan is doing his eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and right before he's about to go on it and choose someone, there's a moment he waits. And like I said in my previous videos, Negan is thinking strategically who he needs to kill. He's not just doing it randomly. And that's clear to me. And people may say why he chose Abraham if he was doing it strategically. Well, because Abraham is a strong character. And he's going to become a problem to Negan in the future. And something else that was very interesting is that it goes back to what Negan told Rick. He said this trip, when he was taking him on the RV, was about the way Rick looked at me. I didn't like the way Rick looked at me. And it's interesting because if you look back at the finale of Season 6, Abraham gave Negan this look of, "I'm about to kill you. You can kill me. I don't care. And you're not as strong as you think you are. And if you're going to take anyone, just take me." And that scared Negan. And he wanted to take Abraham out. I think it's interesting how everything comes together, because Negan was telling Rick about the way he looked at him. And then Abraham gave Negan similar or even worse, look, and he was punished for it. And it's interesting how even one look like that can get you killed with Negan. And it just makes Negan so much more intimidating and scary. Then, the other thing I wanted to talk about, when there are these shots of Rick killing the zombies with his axe and trying to get back to the RV, there are some quick shots there. And this actually reminded me a lot of the quick shots back in season 6, in episode 9, No Way Out, when we see the same sort of quick shots of Rick just chopping the walkers, and it's kind of like a callback to that scene as well. And it's interesting how, in that case, Rick was doing it because he thought that's the only way he could be useful. And in this case, he's doing this because this is the only thing he can do to be useful, is to kill these walkers and get back to his people and save them. Because if he doesn't do this, if he can't get back to Negan on time, Negan is just going to kill everybody, like he says. So it was kind of interesting how they kind of made a callback to No Way Out as well in here. And then there's this, which happens in the last 10 minutes of the episode. And I already talked about this in my other video, but when the saviors are leaving, there's a shot of Rick looking down, and then in the background you see someone taking a picture of Glenn's bashed in head. And it's a callback to Glenn looking at the photos of the people with their brains bashed in when they attacked the Savior's compound back in season 6. And it's very interesting how everything came full circle for Glenn, because at that point he saw those pictures, and then at this point someone is taking the same sort of pictures from his bashed in head. And he'll be very messed up, yet cool to see if that picture is going to end up on a wall like this again somewhere else in another compound, and whether that's going to be used as a tactic to break someone else. So for example, they're taking Daryl as a prisoner to the compound the Saviors have. So would it be really messed up if one of the Saviors, not Negan, because I think that would be weird for Negan to do something like that, but what if one of the Saviors just puts this picture or Polaroid on the wall where Daryl sleeps or something like that? It'll be messed up, and it'll be cool to see, but messed up at the same time. I'm almost hesitant to say this because I don't want it to happen because it sounds so corny, but I'm also interested to see how Daryl will react if something like this happens. And then there's this picture with everyone at the dinner table in Alexandria, and it's kind of like a farewell to Abraham and Glenn. There's something very interesting. If you take a look at the candles at the center, you see 2 are lit and 2 are not lit. And I think this does symbolize something interesting, because that end of the table is the family. Glenn, Maggie, Abraham, Sasha. 4 people. And with the candles, 2 are not lit anymore. And those 2 could symbolize both Abraham's life and Glenn's life. And the people who are alive would be the other candles that are still burning, would be Maggie and Sasha. And there's some kind of flicker to these candles as if they're about to go out, which symbolizes how Sasha and Maggie's life could also go in an instant because of their situation and how emotionally broken they are. Maggie even physically broken. So I think it was kind of cool how they incorporated that symbolism in that scene as well. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll be back for another video.